I was introduced to shot put at a very young age because my dad was a thrower. He threw the javelin, shot put, and discus for QRC. And also my sister threw the shot put while she was in secondary school. So she was really my closest influence. She's my older sister. So the throwing events have been a part of my family for quite some time now. To take it seriously, when I migrated to the US for university, I had a very stressful situation, and as a result, I was looking simply for an outlet. Additionally, I'd always wanted to take part in track and field while I was in Trinidad, but being from Mayaro, I wasn't given the opportunity to throw. So when I went to the US, I was looking for like a new way to work out, to stay healthy, and to deal with stress. I decided to walk on to the track team at my university. And from that point, I took it seriously. I took it serious enough where I went from being a really bad thrower to eventually winning the NCAAs in 2002. And once I won NCAAs, I'd also achieved the Olympic B standard. And my coach at the time advised me to move and begin working with another coach and to see if I can make it to the Olympic Games. This was in 2002. In 2003, I improved. I had the B standard for World Championships, but I wasn't selected for that team. So at that time, I realized that, okay, either I'm gonna do this, do it the right way, or we're just gonna stop. And so I went ahead and I started working towards achieving the A standard. And with the A standard, the federation does not have much of a choice as to whether or not you're going to be selected. Like you greatly increase your chance of being selected by achieving the A standard. And I achieved the A standard on February 14th of 2004. And I figured that was a sign that I must love the shot put. So then after doing that, I threw the national record, and at that moment I became a professional track and field athlete because now I was booking jobs to go onto the IAAF track and field circuit. And that's sort of how it happened. That's how I got into professional throwing. My family's response was really positive. Everyone was super happy because they knew how disappointed I was the year prior as a result of not being selected. But my dad's response was to make me pledge and promise that I'd never do any sort of anabolic steroids or anything illegal to try and be a good athlete, that I would do it the right way. So that's how everyone responded to that. I have an older sister, a younger sister, and a younger brother. I returned to Trinidad in 2012, and at that moment, I think people had to get to know me, get to understand my work ethic, and understand what I was about. For example, when I first returned, one Sunday I went to the stadium to do a gym session, and the security guard was really surprised that I was there, and we got into like a little bit of a screaming match. But in fact I know, once I left Trinidad and Tobago, and I represented Trinidad and Tobago while training here, everything changed. Like, a lot of people knowing who I am and what I'm doing, they really made it possible for me to do what was necessary. So it wasn't like, oh, here's this crazy person on a Sunday trying to get into the gym. That mentality shifted once I kind of laid a foundation here. But I would say that even prior to that, I did have challenges being a female athlete trying to represent Trinidad and Tobago in the past. You know, I've had administrators saying to me that other male athletes are trying to be professional athletes and not including me amongst the group of professional athletes. And I really didn't understand why, because I was very active on the circuit and I saw myself as a professional, but the administrators didn't. And I felt like a lot of it had to do with the fact that I was female and they just didn't see me for what I was. I think by my consistent competition, not just for the national team, but also on the international circuit. I've been consistent for many, many years, over a decade, and I think with that they realized that I'm a professional trying to do this in a professional way. I attended Coppin State College for my undergrad, but I graduated from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County with an INDS Health Psychology degree. I got my master's degree from Virginia Tech, and that was a master's in education with a focus on health promotions. I think about that a lot, but I'm really happy with where I am right now, and I think that if I changed anything in the past, perhaps I wouldn't be at this point. So I'm happy with my journey as it is, and I wouldn't change anything in my past, because as I mentioned earlier, even my failures, like my failure to make the national team in 2003 led to a greater determination to make the Olympic standard and to make the Olympic team in 2004. So I really would not change anything in my past. Once I committed to track and field, my life changed tremendously in that everything was about track and field. Every decision that I make is somehow related to track and field and somehow related to throwing. So I really don't do anything that could potentially jeopardize my throwing. I take very good care of my hands because I throw with my hands. And you know, my diet, whether or not I go to a party or event, everything is related to throwing, every decision. No, I don't feel like I've missed out on a lot because I've had so many great experiences which are perhaps unique for individual coming from Mayaro or individual coming from Trinidad and Tobago. So I never really feel like I'm missing out, and that's how I'm able to make the commitment that I've made. I would say the highlight of my career has been winning the gold medal at the Pan American Games last year in 2015, because I feel like it was at a time where the country was really ready to embrace sport, to embrace the throwing the events, and I feel like it will have an impact for many years to come, and also making it to the finals at the Olympic Games. I think that those are my two career highlights. When things are challenging, we tend to be emotional, and I try to not make big life decisions when I'm emotional. I try to be very focused at that moment and really ask myself the right questions. But additionally, I also ask myself on a regular basis, am I happy with what I'm doing today? Am I pleased with what I'm gonna do? And as yet in track and field, I have not had so many consecutive days where I'm not happy with what I'm about to do. And so I can keep going. But also once I make a commitment to something, I like to see it through to the very end. Well, I absolutely love Serena Williams. I admire a lot of people. I have a friend, her name is Anastasia Samuel. I admire her. I admire my older sister, my siblings. I don't know. I tend to see the good in people, and I try to emulate that. So no matter what else an individual has, whatever is good or bad about someone, I understand that everyone can be both good and not so good. So I try to like really focus on the positive things about people. Not much. I don't do a lot outside of athletics. I don't really have a hobby because I enjoy what I do so much. It's a job, but if it wasn't a job, then throwing would be my hobby. So I'm very fortunate in that way that I get to do what I love. I like makeup. I like going around to schools, speaking and inspiring younger kids, because when I was a student, those days where the Soca Warriors, in those days it was the Strike Squad. When the Strike Squad came to our school, or when Bridget Adams came to visit us in Mayaro, those were like huge days for me. So I try to visit a lot of schools and just work on other avenues where I can have a positive impact. I would say the secret to my success is loving what I do and having a positive outlook on life. But in addition to that, always asking myself when I'm in a negative or difficult situation, how have I contributed to this situation? Because you can only change yourself, you can only make changes within yourself. And I feel like I can have more joy in my life when I look at things that way. When I take the blame for circumstances, I can make changes, and that's how I stay happy. To do what you love. Find the one thing that you love doing the most and to make that into your career or your job. To walk in your purpose. That would be my advice to them. I would have to say Brazil, Rio this year, because I made it a point. I was gonna enjoy these games. I was gonna do everything Olympic and all things Olympic, meaning I wasn't gonna go to Christ Redeemer's statue. I didn't want to hang out at Copacabana Beach. I wanted to experience the Olympics. I wanted to go to as many events as possible, and that's what I did. And I set my mind before I left Trinidad. I set my mind before leaving Trinidad that I was gonna enjoy this. And that's why I think I had so much fun, regardless of what was going on, because the Olympic Games can be extremely stressful. And my Olympic experience in 2004, there was a lot of stress attached to that. Also in 2008 and in 2012, it just seemed like the stress level was building with each and every Olympic Games in a negative way. And when I decided to go on to 2016, I felt like I'd done my job. I'd been to 3 games at that time. And from 2012 to 16, it was my time to live and enjoy. And that's what I did. I walked out there and you know, I'm just like, this is it. That's what kept playing in my mind over and over. This is it. This is the moment. I can do this. You know, I'm happy to be here, and I have to do my best to represent Trinidad and Tobago. And that's all that I can do. Walking out there, seeing our flags, seeing so many people there to support me. It was great. It was a really, really good feeling. Well, that moment was actually immortalized by Felix Sanchez. And I mean, you can see how emotional I was. Like, you can see, it was just, if I can it's difficult to explain, but in the women's shot put, there are 2 heats going on at the same time. So basically that means there are 2 groups of athletes trying to qualify at the same time. And at the end of it all, I knew I was in 4th place in my group, but only the top 12 athletes advanced. And I felt that I had advanced, but I wasn't absolutely sure. So I was walking around nervous, and I was like going like this to my coach and then like this, and he was like ignoring me or he didn't realize what I was trying to do. So the entire time we're walking from the competition field into the mixed zone, I'm trying to figure out whether or not I've made it into the finals. I don't know if the other group just had like an amazing day and 9 people qualified from that group, which would have eliminated me. So when I met Felix and they wanted to speak to me, I asked, I was like, well, did I make it in? And they were like, yeah. But you know, people make mistakes. So I couldn't I asked several times. I tried to confirm that I qualified. And when they said, absolutely Cleo, you're in, all of a sudden, all this emotion just erupted in me, especially because in 2012, I was in the 13th position. We take 12 to the finals. And we now know that 2 of the athletes that finished ahead of me, they're serving bans for doping offenses. So I felt in a way that I was robbed, but also, as I mentioned earlier, I asked myself, how did I put myself in that situation? And I decided that I needed to make sure in Rio that I threw far enough that I wasn't on the bubble, I wasn't in the 12th spot. And so it was like 4 years and more of emotion just erupted at one moment. We just did a quick WhatsApp chat. My mom, everyone was happy. Everyone was at home crying. They were all very happy and I apologized to my mom and my family during the interview because in 2012, when I didn't make it to the finals, they were all crying and they were upset. And now I made it into the finals and I have them crying again. I knew that they would be crying. So everyone was really, really happy. My friend called me and she was locked up in the restroom at her job because she was in there crying, snot bubbles. And we video chatted for a couple minutes, but then I had to regroup because my finals were actually that night. We competed at 10 a.m. in the morning and we were going back out there later on that night. So I had to get all that emotion under wraps very quickly and go to sleep and then get ready for the finals. Little known facts about Cleo. I'm really girly. And people, I think that people don't realize that. I'm not the girliest girl, but I'm pretty girly. I love makeup. I love stilettos and dressing up. And I'd love to have nails and the whole 9, but like I said, every decision goes back to shot put, and I can't have nails and throw the shot put. But I'm pretty girly. And the next thing is that I think I'm pretty chill and relaxed. and I'm easy to get along with. Well, for the next 18 months, I am going to continue competing because I love it. And I'll see from that point. I would like to start a family and all that jazz, but we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. That's because in April of 2018, we're gonna have the Commonwealth Games in the Gold Coast, Australia. And I would like to represent Trinidad and Tobago at that competition. We have to see where I'm at in 18. If I'm throwing very well, then I'll keep going. But if things are starting to wind down, I'm fine. I'm happy with what my career has been, and I'll be happy to walk away at the Commonwealth Games in 2018. If I'm there, you never know. I am most proud of the person that I am. I'm comfortable in my skin, and I'm happy with myself, and I know that I always give it 100%. And so I'm happy with, if my life were a book, I'm happy that there's not too much drama in there. And it's just a nice, cool, easy read. You know, my answer to that will always be no. And it's because I want so much for our athletes. I want everything for our athletes. So with that in mind, I've been asking myself the question, how can sport, how can athletes, how can athletics, and not just track and field, but all athletes, all athletics, football, basketball, netball, of course track and field, hockey, how can we become self-sufficient as an industry? And I think that that's the big question right now. What can we do to make sure that future generations don't depend as heavily on government financing? I think that that's the direction that we need to look at right now. How can sport, and I think that Mr. Imbert will agree with me. You know, we need the support of the government right now, but sport and track and field, sport and football, cricket, these are all industries. How can we get that industry to expand in a way where we're not relying solely on the government? And I think that that's a challenge for this generation.